Welcome to Just Another Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. Today's guest, I had Chris Rudolph on to talk. He's from Waterfront Concerts. We talked the beginning of Waterfront Concerts in a sense with Kabang and how that morphed into the Waterfront Concerts. We talked Kanù, their new restaurant they're opening in Old Town, and the different experience you're going to get there. We talked live music as a whole. But we just had a great conversation about how live music has affected Bangor, improved the economy, improved downtown and the waterfront. We also talked about how the pandemic has affected and the fact that they had no concerts this past summer in the massive size. They did a couple of nonprofit fundraiser concerts in Westbrook to raise money for food houses and food shelters and things like that down there. So it was a really cool conversation to be able to chat and interact with Chris. We talked about the idea of what you can expect next summer when 2021 comes around and the concerts are back, about bathrooms, upgrades, different upgrades at the waterfront in downtown Bangor. So it was a great conversation. I hope you guys really enjoy it. It's worth listening to if you're from the Bangor area. If you're really interested in just music and live music in the whole and some of the behind the scenes stuff, Chris has all that info as well. So hopefully we'll get Chris back again to talk when there's actual concerts going on the waterfront in Bangor. But for right now, we were able to talk just about the complete history of Waterfront Concerts, but as well as what happened this summer with the COVID hitting and all that stuff too. So I hope you guys enjoy. And this is Chris Rudolph and me. Thanks. How's it going, Chris?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm having a beer here at like 1:00 in the afternoon. It's, how worse can that get?
You're living the dream right now, buddy.
It's nice because I changed my schedule up at Orno Brewing Company. So I do work Tuesday through Saturday most weeks, but every once in a while I have a Monday, but I work in the morning from home.
Yeah.
And so I get to a point around noon, 12:30, and I'm like, okay, sounds good. Time for a beer and relaxing. So this works out pretty well.
So I'm trying to recover from that. I had my wife was away this weekend, so I did some painting of the house, trying to get that in the last minute before the winter comes, and actually was having quite a bit of your product this past weekend as well. So
I got get after it. We just canned it. It's so easy drinking. It's like I could just crash too many of them, I think, but not bad.
tends to happen with anything Asa touches.
Yep. See, it was funny. Asa told me. So I talked to Asa on Friday, and I told him I was like, "Oh, Chris is going to come on the podcast next week." And I was like, "Oh, do we have any more quality control cans of the Waterfront Concerts beer we did last year?" And he's like, "I don't think so. Maybe some really bad ones that we like put in like 90-degree weather,
Right.
so that like we see how bad the cans get when they're that temperature." I was like, "I don't want to drink one. Maybe I'll bring one and put it on the thing." And he's like, "No, actually," and I forgot to do it. He goes, "You really should screw with Chris and take a get after it can, peel the label off, and put a kilowatt label on it, and just sit here and start drinking pretend like I'm drinking kilowatt just to piss him off."
No, you tell Asa that's not a thing we do. We don't mess with my kilowatt. That's not something I'm very happy about ever.
I think we're gonna bring back megawatt here pretty soon though, so we'll be happy with that.
I enjoyed that beer quite a bit. Kilowatt will always be my favorite of all of the OBC brews, but Megawatt was very nice. The packaging was wonderful, well done on the label.
Thank you.
And the flavor palette was just amazing. So well done.
Yeah, and I think the spicy beers are not unpopular. I'll tell you that much. People do like them. So
man,
cool.
the lemon and the habanero and just that hot cold, if you will. It's a cool and then the heat. It's brilliant. I love it so much.
But so that's Orno Brewing Company. We're here to talk about.
I could talk about that all
yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about Waterfront Concerts, and so Chris works for Waterfront Concerts. He does a lot of various things, but he was our touch person last year at Orno Brewing Company when we did the 10th anniversary beer. So I've known Chris for a little bit now because of Orno Brewing Company. He used to come in to downtown location when I was bartending, but he's been basically dealing with concerts in Waterfront for a long time, not just WFC, but you've also done like Kabang. Was Kabang part of Waterfront Concerts? Or was that its own?
No, it wasn't. It's a loaded question. No, they were two separate entities. Okay. There are a lot of us who are with Waterfront Concerts that started there. But yeah, Kabang was, the fact that it was over a decade ago now it makes me feel my age more than I already do. But Yeah, we've been doing this for a while. We started, I started with Kabang really in 11, end of 10, unofficially helping on site, and then 11, and then came to Waterfront Concerts in 2013. So we've been doing this, full time for, this is going to be my ninth season we're going into. So it seems like it was yesterday when I was at Patty Murphy's, but here we are.
It's pretty crazy because I completely forgot because I moved back to Bangor in 2016 and I moved away in '06. So right in the middle of that was when like cool shit was happening on the waterfront in Bangor, like with Kabang coming in, all that stuff, and then that it morphed and now it's into waterfront concerts. I kept on thinking like, oh my god, look at the cool acts that are coming to Bangor, and I'm now in Boston area, so I was like, it doesn't really matter to me because I get all those same acts come to Boston,
Right.
but it was just really cool to see a town that I grew up in to have these cool acts and people that I kind of admired or listened to, or even my parents listened to, have that happen. So it was funny because last week I had Ben Sprague on the podcast, and he brought up Kabang, just ideas of different things that have happened in Bangor over the years. And I laughed because I was like, I remember it being publicized online and all that stuff, but I never went because I was in, Massachusetts, and it was like it'd be really cool to come up to go to it, but it wasn't something I was going to take the time off for at the time. I mean, now it's like if that was happening in Bangor now, I would be there all weekend. But we have other options now with other concerts that you guys have brought in. But it was
Yeah,
just kind of funny.
I think with Kabang in particular, I don't think that there's many things that I've been as proud of to be a part of as when what we did in that time period. The people that I worked with, I know you're very familiar with most of them, but Josh and Meg and Tim and that entire crew, they had ideas that were far ahead of where we thought we were going to go with it. And I actually, the last time I saw Josh, I apologized to him. I said, I wish I knew how to do what I do now when we were doing that, because I feel like where we were as individuals and all around, we just missed some things that we could have been hugely successful. So that haunts me a little bit, but I was so proud of being part of that group. And quite frankly, I wouldn't be in this position if I hadn't had that experience, because it one led right into the other, as you say, and we have been able to do some really cool things here. But yeah, I always give a nod back to that time, because it's such a, not only an important time in my life, but it's also like such a great, wonderful group of people that I got to do some really cool things with. And I kind of came the other way, right? So I moved up here in 2000 from Boston, and you and I kind of crossed paths there. And I'd grown up there and moved up here in 2000, and it was very much there's nothing to do here. And I would tell people that I moved here in my age demographic, and they were all telling me they were going to Boston. They were saying, "What are you doing here? Why did you come here?" And I think it's, you know, there wasn't as much to do here now, or as there is now, right? But it was a grass is always greener kind of situation. You go, you see how it is. There are points to the city that you love and you miss and you always want to have. But there's also something to be said for what it is here to begin with, but then what we've been able to grow here. It's amazing how far a little town like Bangor has just spread its wings.
I mean, it's hard to plan and do events for businesses or anything around people who are between the ages of 17 and 20, because it's just a weird age that you don't know what people are going to be doing, and the money's not there for them to spend, and so on. So it does make sense when someone was like, well, yeah, you moved back when you were 21. So
Right.
like after 21, I was over 21, but it's saying like you went away when you were 18 and moved back when you were post 21, which means that there was bars, restaurants. I could go to cons. I had money, or not a ton of it, but I had money. I could go to concerts. I can go to events. I could do things.
Right.
But it does make sense. There is that weird gap year that it would be nice, and you guys bring in acts that kind of tend to have that attractiveness to it too, so that if you are the 18, 19-year-old person who has a little bit of money, can come to waterfront concerts and experience something that I didn't get when I was that age because it wasn't there. I mean, 2006, it wasn't something. The waterfront was not what it looks like now at all.
No, and that's the thing, right? I mean, even with going back and again, with what it was, one of our not failures, but one of the hard things is when you are catering to the younger crowd, the only way you make money in this industry is to have those food and beverage sales. And they're not there to a crowd that doesn't have that kind of income to begin with. And I think that's part of the reason why some of the shows that we love to see, um, you just can't bring them a lot of the time because you can't pay for them. A lot of the things that people don't understand with what we do is that all of that ticket money goes to the artist. We don't set the prices. We don't set, all of the what the tickets end up being. We know what the band is going to charge us to come. We have to then set the ticket prices to pay the artist, but they take all of that revenue. So the only way that we make our revenue is off of season seats and sponsorship and then food and beverage. And if we don't have those, then we can't survive. So I think that's lost a little bit. And when you have some of the mid-range artists that skew towards that 15 to 19 demographic, they're wonderful and you want to be able to do them, but you can't have that be it because you can't long term make any money off of it.
And I appreciate that because I started my marketing career doing marketing for a concert company in New Hampshire, puts on the Soul Fest in New Hampshire. And I mean, that's a nonprofit organization putting on a concert too. So it's like, when someone's like, "Oh, you should get this artist or this artist," and you're like, "Well, yeah, if you do that, then the ticket's gonna be $300 for the weekend."
Sure.
Or I can bring in a bunch of medium artists, and the ticket's gonna be $125 a weekend. And again, most of that ticket sales went to paying for the artist, not it's the T-shirt sales, the food sales, and the vendor sales, and all those different people who show up and different things like that that actually help pay for the actual event to be put on,
Yeah.
plus the salaries of the employees and all that stuff. So I always respected whenever I go, "Oh, you should really get this person there." I always know it's a loaded statement because I know for a fact that if you want this X person to come, I have to be willing to spend $150 for a 3-hour concert
Right.
because just where you are and when it's not part of a tour. If they're part of a tour, obviously, like I know that little bit, it's probably a little bit cheaper than if it's a one-time event. There's a couple things that go into it, but yeah, it's my favorite thing ever is, I mean, working in the brewing industry is you really should make this beer. The same thing in the concert industry, right? You really should get this act here. It's like it's not as simple as just being like, yeah, sure, we'll call them
Right.
up. They'll be there
Yeah.
tomorrow.
The one thing that when I started working here, when I came into the office full time in 13, there was, the five of us, and the majority was listening to EDM and all that sort of thing at a time when I wasn't hugely familiar with it, right? And have come to appreciate it, whether I like it or not at this point. But, I came in, and the big thing they always said around the office is if we did the shows that from the music that we love, we wouldn't sell a single ticket. So it is, you have to find, everybody thinks that we're huge country people and all those sorts of things. It's just what sells, and it's the demographic that we're in, and it's where you can be successful all around because people want to go to a country show and have some beers and hang out with your friends, and it just breeds to an environment where we can all be successful. Whereas to your point with an artist that you want to see, listen, we all want to see Metallica and you want to see, Pearl Jam and all these bands. And our hope is as we continue to grow the waterfront, the improvements that are coming, which there are many, and we're hopeful to go forward with that. The opportunities will present themselves as we grow our capacity and everything else to have those abilities. Because as your point with the touring and all those sorts of things, well, yeah, but if they're on a tour, you have to skew them to come up from Bangor or from Boston to Bangor. You have to give them that reason to come. And there's a level of competition that just it makes it, more difficult. So what we've tried to do is, do our best to make the artist experience that much better so that when they come, they want to stay and they want to come back. But to your point, if you go see Metallica at Gillette, I bought $120 ticket to go see Metallica at Gillette Stadium a few years ago with my brother, and I was at the nosebleeds as far as you could possibly go back. And if that were to be in Bangor, people have to understand that those nosebleeds in our place are a hell of a lot closer, but it has to be a $250, $300 ticket because we can't pay the bands otherwise.
I saw Springsteen. My ex father-in-law gave me a free ticket. He had bought tickets and then won tickets to see Springsteen at Gillette. And the entire time I was at Gillette Stadium, I was watching the screen because I couldn't see
Yeah.
Springsteen. So there's a difference on that. Yes, obviously it's more expensive, but you're going to get a better experience in all likelihood at a smaller venue like Waterfront Concerts and Darling's Waterfront Pavilion. That's pretty cool. The relation and the idea that it's way more expensive, not way more. It can be more expensive to see them in Bangor, but you're also closer. So I understand that aspect of it too.
Our big argument with anything as far as promotions, we always dealt, especially the early years when people would say, oh, we're doing a promotion to give away tickets to the Red Sox, Patriots, whatever it might be, right? I'm a big fan of sports and I love going to those games. I like it a lot more when I'm right down the street, right? And I had the luxury of having my folks there and being able to stay and, spend the night there and spend some time with my family and everything else. But when you give someone in the county 2 tickets to a Red Sox game or a Patriots game, you're essentially giving them a 400, 500, $600 bill just to go and enjoy the free tickets that you've given them. So sure, there's the expenses, but to your point, you are right here. So you don't have to get a hotel. You don't have to pay gas and tolls. You are home within 30 to 40 minutes, even if you live far away from here. So there are those kinds of things that balance it out that really make the overall experience not only much more enjoyable and much more intimate, but also much more affordable in the scheme of going down to Gillette and everything else. So, and really with the improvements that we're making, as I spoke to, I mean, we're in a very good position here where people are gonna, you're not gonna feel like you're just walking into a park to watch a show. We're on the verge of offering state of the art, amenities that a lot of venues, really talking to the Live Nation folks, they've told us that they're very jealous about what we're going to be able to offer here.
It's the what you spoke on the being right here in town. It's the first place that I've lived. So I've lived in Massachusetts. I lived in Connecticut for like a few months, and then now I live back up here, Southern Maine, as well in Kittery. But that I know people who go to the Waterfront concerts, even if it's not a musical act that they know or want to go to, because it's something to do on a Friday night that's not super expensive, that
Sure.
I can be home that night. And it's like if you're into country, but maybe you're not into the specific country artist, that you might go because it's like, hey, I'll just drink some beer and have some set food and hang out on a Friday night. Maybe I won't even stay for the finishing act, but I'll just go out for Friday night. I've in Massachusetts, you don't hear that. No one just goes to Boston to go to a concert. It's like, nah, I'll pick the ones that I want to go to. It's pretty unique and cool to see that aspect of how many people I know that just show pictures on their Instagram or their Facebook. And I'm like, they're into metal music. Why are they at a country show? And they just like, oh, we just went because our friends were going and we thought we'd go. And it's like that's a cool experience that you wouldn't get anywhere else, I don't think. Or there's probably somewhere else in the United States that does that, but
Not Massachusetts. No,
no,
it's
not Massachusetts.
you're right. I mean, it's a different time, right? So there's a lot of different variables that go into play with that. And having grown up in Mass with Great Woods in a time when you check the newspaper at the beginning of the summer to see what the concert lineup was, right? And it wasn't, you didn't look at the newspaper and see the lineup, and they had every single show that they had booked for the summer. It was just right there in front of you at Great Woods. And you didn't pick through it to find the shows that you hated. And you only looked for the one or two that you wanted to go to, and then you went. And now with Facebook, it's like every time we post a show, it's the worst. And it's like, then keep going.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ballgame for advertising and everything else too, because we live in an instant gratification society anyway, in time where you can get everything at your fingertips. So to see people be so mad when a band that they don't like comes, it's kind of like, well, then wait for the one that you do like and be super excited about that. And how about we just wait and post then? Because it's a different thing. And we didn't just you didn't go to Great Woods or to, at the time, the Garden or wherever. You didn't go to just see a show for the sake of seeing a show. You had enough things outside of that to do, but it also, and tickets weren't that expensive when I was growing up. It was, $25 to go see the Allman Brothers, and that was our event. That was what we did every single summer, and we'd go to 2 or 3 shows. But you're right. I mean, Bangor's very unique in that you see the same people at a lot of shows. Our season C program is huge, and it's because people just want to get out in the summer and hang and have a good time.
And it's made it a lot easier with like different restaurants downtown are now growing and adding, so you can go out for food before as well. Going to that, there's transportation, there's all kinds of hotels that have gone up. I mean, Ben Sprague spoke to it. It's huge that something like the Waterfront concerts and the growth of downtown Bangor has added millions of dollars into the economy in the Bangor area because of the expansion of people coming from the county or from Portland even to come up
Yeah.
here to a concert that you guys booked. But now you also have the idea that you also put shows into Westbrook. So Westbrook's now is also pulling people from even the county or in Bangor to go to Westbrook because Westbrook's not that far, a couple hours. It's a lot easier to drive to Westbrook on a Friday night than it is to go to from like Haverhill to Boston on a Friday
Sure.
night for a show. So I mean, it is about the same distance if traffic is a problem time wise. So it is pretty crazy what you guys have been able to do in a place like
It's a
Bangor. It's
real
just
thing. It's my cousins will come up here now to see Kenny Chesney because they have started to make a weekend out of it. Well, they'll go to the casino and all those sorts of things, which is the whole point, right? You want people to be able to come. But we joke with them. I went to see the Black Sabbath final tour a couple of years ago, and we had some good parking in the VIP lot. And my brother, who I also had parking for, and he wanted to stay with his people, as I was told. So he parked in the general lot. And he called me when he was getting out of the lot, and he said, "Hey, what's going on?" He said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in Waterville." And he said, "You're kidding me." And I said, "No." I said, "Where are you?" He goes, "I'm just getting out of the lot right now." So he lives 15 minutes away from Great Woods or Xfinity Center now. And we got home 30 minutes apart, and I came all the way back up to Bangor. So it really is something to be said with how easy it is to go from a show and be sitting at a table at Patty's or Gagan's or wherever it might be 15 minutes later. I mean, that's a real gift that people, I don't think, if they're not familiar with what the other places are, understand to its fullest capacity.
And I mean, obviously, like any venue, this is not a slight against Waterfront Concerts, but you have a line to get into, and especially now with the security protocols that have to be in place and all that stuff, there's a
Sure.
line. So a lot of times, if you're like, oh, I have a seat, maybe I got a premium seat, and so on, is you can hang out at Nocturne and have a beer up until 15 minutes before the show starts, and walk up and get in line, and then get to your seat, and then wait for in between bands. Then you can get up and get a beer or concessions or whatever. But I know people who are, if you just show up at, an hour before the show waiting for the line to die down, I could be drinking a beer downtown and be making it up because it's right there. It's not
Yeah.
like you guys. It's not like the Xfinity Center, for an example. Now it's really in the middle of nowhere in a sense. It's not like you can walk somewhere. Like you'd have to walk through the parking lot down in Mansfield to actually get somewhere.
Sure.
Whereas Bangor, it's literally like a 15-minute walk from downtown to the concerts, and it's like, or Sea Dog is right there as well, and Gagan's is the opposite direction. It's really kind of cool, but obviously now in this world we live in, no music was played other than probably in the headphones of construction workers on the waterfront this year due to this pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, I'm looking at your affected waterfront concerts events on your website, and it's just canceled, 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 canceled.
It was brutal.
How is this affected?
Not my favorite summer.
How is this affect? I mean, obviously it's affected you guys, but you guys, like you mentioned, we talked at the beginning of this summer about how yes, it sucks that we're not able to have live music on the waterfront, and it does impact the economy in Bangor and all that stuff. But you just mentioned earlier about improvements. You told me that is this basically you guys had no concerts this summer, so you've done worried about improvements to the waterfront, Darling's Waterfront Pavilion, or
So we were already slated to do it. We'd obviously signed a 40-year extension with the city of Bangor. So we're here. We have no intention, obviously pre-COVID in particular, to go anywhere. And we were in the midst of some really cool infrastructure things that were going to help us to be successful. So phase one of our renovation was slated to be done for June, which was 120 bathrooms, full bathrooms. We added 40 last year, so we're going to add another 80. A second entrance up on the lawn so that it was a full, you know, concession style, kiosk style, everything up on the lawn to make it ease of access thing, and then also to get rid of all those choke points and some of the long lines that you even talked about a couple minutes ago. So that stuff was already being done with knowing that phase two was going to be Maine Savings is building a vault similar to Duncan. We're calling it the vault at Darling's Waterfront Pavilion. It's another VIP club. We're adding luxury boxes similar to the Cross in every major arena you go. So we'll have reels, corporate suites, and a lot of infrastructure improvements that'll just make the overall experience much more of a venue versus, like I had mentioned, kind of a city park feel. So we were in the middle of doing really a lot of the underground stuff, adding the wiring and all of the conduit and everything that goes into that, plumbing, and then this hit hard, and it was kind of one of those where we're about to pour concrete. It gave us a little bit more time to step back and think about how we wanted to do it. There's some things that we've actually tweaked because of the pandemic that gave us a minute to take that extra second that we wouldn't have had to make some of these improvements the way that we really should make them for long-term viability versus just let's do this because it's awesome and it will work. And then we look at it as an overall, big picture view, and we say, wow, I'm glad we had some time to not do that. We pivoted. It's the big thing this year is pivoting. If you don't in any business, as we've seen it, you can get shriveled up real quick, and it's been really sad personally to see a lot of the local businesses that I really thought had a chance had just started and they kind of lost their footing, and that's it's really unfortunate. And we made a conscious effort very early that we needed to change a lot of the things that we were doing because we have no revenue coming in, and we were a victim to this in a lot of ways too. We're an independent promoter, and we had to furlough people and let people who I love dearly, take a little bit of a break here during the summer. And the goal obviously is to bring them all back. We have every intention to continue doing what we're doing with live music, and this has just been one of those where we've had to turn our attention. We did the live concert streaming series out of Westbrook. We raised some money for charity to do it to try to end hunger in Maine with our friends at Maine Savings Bank. And we gave money to Good Shepherd Food Bank and Preble Street and a lot of these other nonprofits. So there is some good that we've been able to do that we wouldn't have been able to necessarily attack. And now that's going to be something that we'll do even next year when we are doing concerts. We'll do these little live streaming events. I got to tell you personally that I haven't had this much fun doing shows as I did this summer, running a video camera. I mean, when you get forced into a situation that you haven't done since you were starting out, there's something to be said to triaging, and to learning new things individually.
It is. I mean, it's cool because I think you step back and you were able to not. I mean, you're stressed through the summer. I mean, Taylor, we were talking about you coming on, and last night Taylor goes, "I remember the last time we ran into Chris at Hannaford and Brewer, and he looked like he was about to keel over." I was like, that was like what? Not this past year, but like last time I just ran into you in public. It
Yeah.
wasn't at OBC or whatever, or the Waterfront
Concert. Grocery store or something.
Yeah, and you were tired. It's like it takes a lot out of you, and it is like I said. I talked to Lisa Sturgeon a couple weeks ago about that we can't. COVID's not a positive thing at all. Like there's zero positivity came out of a pandemic, but there's a small like silver linings in it, and it's the things that you were able to do in this time off or forced time off or whatever. And the Maine Savings, live streaming thing gave you something to do for raising funds for a nonprofit, but also the fact that you gave you time to figure this out so that you can do it in the future. Because if we were trying to launch this at the same time that Ozzy Osbourne's on stage in Bangor, you wouldn't have time and effort and all that stuff.
We wouldn't have been able to. We wouldn't have done it probably. Period. And now it's something that we offer with our sister company, which is Production Services in Maine. So everybody that's hired through our company for Waterfront Concerts to work the shows, and even at the restaurant that we're opening up in Old Town, you're hired through Production Services in Maine. And we do staging and lighting and all those sorts of things. And now it's another component that we do, which is the videography component. And we are working with one of our partners down at Bernie's and Wally's in Hampton Beach, and we're doing some cool ideas with them. And again, it came down to how do you pivot to be successful? Because if you don't, you're dead. And again, there is no positive really with anything going on, but we've been able to. I alluded to the restaurant we're opening, the restaurant and club up in Old Town, Kanù, and we were able to take all of our resources that were supposed to be down on the waterfront and send them all to Old Town to finish the work there and finish it at a level of detail that I don't think we would have been able to hit again. So you just try to do the best through this, and it's for everybody, big company, small company. All you're trying to do is the best so that you can be successful on the other side of it. We don't know what this looks like. We're in a business that, we 250 people is not going to help us, for a capacity. So we're really just kind of staying focused on what's in the immediate that's going to keep us viable long term, and that's really the gist of it at this point.
Did you guys obviously we all played it by ear. I mean, in March when this all hit, I mean, OBC closed on March 16th.
Yep.
We opened back up in July, but it was, I mean, you guys, I talked to Jay and Will from the Comic-Con and about how they you have to plan this stuff. This is not as simple as us at Orno Brewing Company being like, okay, on Saturday night, we're going to change your hours, or we're going to be closed, or we're going to be open. We basically were like, okay, we're open next week. We could do that. No problem. As long as I have the staff on board and all that stuff. You have to plan these things. There's tours, things you plan in years in advance. There's times where you call up Ozzy and be like, hey, or Ozzy himself, but his management, and be like, hey, we want to book you in Bangor. You're like, oh, we're not touring this year, but maybe next year. I mean, you have things that are years in advance tentatively put on the calendar. Did you just have to sweepingly cancel summer? Like, did you? I mean, was there like it's slowly been like, okay, we canceled May, then we canceled June, then we
Was
canceled
really
July.
slow. It was really slow. It was, that glimmer kind of just sitting there hoping, when I was coming back from Sugarloaf, I just got to see a band down in Columbia, South Carolina, called the Wedding Band, and it's Kurt Hammett's band, Robert Trio, and the guy from Ugly Kid Joe, and my buddy, he is a street performer, and he goes by Mrs. Smith, sick guitarist, so talented, and she was lucky enough to get in this battle. It's called a wah off with the wah pedal with Kirk Hammett. So a friend from high school who's playing on stage with two members of Metallica. I'm going. So we went down to South Carolina and we went to the show. And I was like, okay, we'd heard about Seattle was kind of getting a little weary, and it seemed like it was, a world away still at that point. And my wife and I came back, and I went to Sugarloaf the following week. And as I was driving home from the Loaf, I get the notification on my phone, and it's that it's closed for the season. And it was like, what? I could not believe that they were closing Sugarloaf. So that was the first checkpoint in my mind as I look back that things were starting to go that way. But we slowly just kept losing a show and losing a show. And, when I kept telling people, 3 weeks, everybody will get, in their house and we'll be fine here. And we'll get back to doing what we do. And it really wasn't until June where we kind of all collectively looked at each other, took a deep breath, and said, well, here's hoping for 2021.
Yeah.
So, we've been fortunate that we have right now going into 2021, not knowing what it is, but we've got 16 shows already booked and locked up and ready to go, and we're not even into our booking season yet. So, God willing, that we can get into doing what we need to do, and we'll be in a hugely successful position for next year. But again, we have to be ready for that not being the case. And it's for us, it's the long game and it's the big picture. And we know concerts are going to come back. We know we're going to be able to do what we want to do. But if I keep gaining 20 pounds every summer because I'm not running it off with kegs, I'm going to be in real bad shape by the time we get back here, because it is not ideal for myself, and my wife does not like it one bit. So
That's just it's funny how you say that because from March 16th until basically July 1st, I worked from home most of the time, sitting at my desk and whatever. I mean, even when I'm at the office at Orono Brewing Company, I'm at my desk for out of my 8 hour, 10 hour day, 4, 6 hours of that. But I have to get up a lot of times and run to the tasting room and check something up and then go back upstairs. And so I'm still moving. My house isn't that long to be able to go from point A to point B. I don't have any stairs. I have stairs, 3 steps to go to the outside of my car. So yes, you're right. I mean, it was this weird. I didn't get as many steps in. It was kind of crazy in that aspect of it. But were they canceling on you? Is that what it basically was? We're not touring anymore, or was it times where I mean, eventually you had to say because we couldn't do capacity at one point. But like,
I mean, it was pretty early that the state of Maine said no more. So it wouldn't have mattered. Kiss didn't cancel until 2 weeks before the show officially, right? But if Kiss had said we're coming, we would have had to say sorry, you can't, because the guidelines were already in place. So we knew pretty early on that we weren't going to get to that point. But we are, a lot of our tours are tours, and they're figuring out their routing and everything else. So we can't say anything, we can't announce anything until the tour tells us what they want to do. So we're kind of at their mercy in that regard. Fortunately, the collective breath was, we can't do this, and everybody had to kind of change focus. But we were fortunate enough to take the majority of the shows that we had already lined up and just roll them over to a similar date or a comparable date for 2021. But again, we're hopeful, but we'll see what happens then.
It's funny because I'm looking at your affected Waterfront Concerts and seeing Martina McBride. I remember Mark in the office talking about scheduling heavy on that day at Woodman's, because when Martina McBride plays a concert at Orno, the case that is likely pre-concert or post-concert, people are going to be coming to Woodman's after for drinks. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wait, Martina McBride, oh my God, that was this year? And it's so funny. It seems so long ago now that all this started. It just seems like it's part of life right now, and it's really weird in that aspect of it. But you're right.
It was funny at first. It was funny at first how long this year seemed, and now it's like, wow, it really is. It has been a long decade of this year.
And it sucks for like my wife and I talk and laugh because it's like people are always like, screw 2020, you know, like all the funny memes and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, but we got married in 2020, so we can't say we can't be like all sad about 2020. It's like, god damn it. But it's been a long time, but in the same sense, like we talked. I mean, someone emailed me last week asking if they could do a reunion because their 50th high school reunion was postponed because of COVID next summer on our patio, and I'm like, tentatively, yes. Like I
Yeah.
can say yes. Let's have a conversation in the spring. But right now, I mean, I don't freaking know. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's going to be a capacity of 100 for the entire 2020. We don't know, and it's like hopefully we can figure this stuff out because I do miss live music. I do miss, even if I can't get to a show, I do miss seeing the pictures that you guys post on your Facebook or Instagram or stories or whatever. I miss that aspect of it. It's like it's there's something about a live performance that just I did enjoy. There's a place in Wisconsin that back in 2006, 2007 was like a hardcore show venue
Sure.
that they did live streaming, and you could pay. You pay $5 or $10 or whatever it is, and you could watch the concert from the comfort of your own home. And I could drink my own beer and watch the show, and that was pretty cool. But you can only do, like I said, you can only do that so much. There is a point where it's like, if you were to book Run the Jewels, for an example, it's like, no, I'm going to be there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm going to be in the tenants watching the show. I will be watching. They're doing a live stream on Adult Swim Saturday night at midnight.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
But if there's a choice between that and going to a live concert, I'm going to go to a live concert, especially for certain acts. Again, to me, there's a list of 10 that I'm actually going to be like, I don't care what I'm doing. I'll postpone anything to go to this thing. But there's only so much that you can do live streaming before it's just like, okay, I'm just at my house again. I mean, I might as well just put the album on vinyl right now and listen to
That's really the big thing for me too. It's like and you have a similar kind of background in that respect as far as I've been doing this for so long that it really takes a show that I'm super excited about to actually want to watch it, right? Even when they come into our venue half the time, I'm like, but it's one of those where I can't watch a video or a live stream. I tried when the Dead and Company were doing the live shows, getting just rebroadcasting. Like that's great, but there is something to be said with going to a concert and doing the full experience of that. And really, that's what we're banking on, right? Because at the end of the day, people want to get back into doing shows and being around shows and having that experience. And it really is. At the end of the day, that's going to be the thing that catapults us back into business when we get going.
I mean, Joe Rogan spoke on his podcast about the quick rapid testing they have that they figured out somewhere, and that you can know within 45 minutes. I don't know how trustworthy it is or whatever, but he was mentioning for comedy shows or 400, 500 people, that you show up an hour before the show, you take the quick test. Okay, you passed. You're allowed to go in, and the idea behind that. But with 10,000 people, it's a little bit more difficult if that's the case, because of the fact that's a lot of testing. You'd have to show up 2 or 3 hours before the show just to be able to get the show to start on time and all that stuff. So it's really more something drastic where a lot of the measures have to be removed for you to actually put a concert on, pretty much, right?
That people are going to want to come to, right? I mean, I don't know how excited people would be to come to a show, even if it's their favorite artist ever, if all of a sudden we have to slow things down to a crawl to do all these tests and whatnot. I think that realistically, we are going to wait until, and I say we, meaning the collective live music business. You're going to have to wait until there is some sort of vaccine or instant test that is just a to your head kind of situation, because otherwise we can't be effective in what we're trying to do, and to keep our fans safe, because that's at the end of the day what we're all trying to do. We're in a position where, because there are a lot of people on top of each other, you don't want to be the person that puts somebody else at risk. And again, I think it comes down to what I've said a bunch of times here is we're here for the long game. We need to be successful because we are, in my opinion, so important to this community. I think that so we go, so goes the neighborhood kind of deal, and there really is an importance to us getting back to doing things, but making sure that when we're ready to do it, it's forever. It's not to shut back down. because that would be the worst case scenario for everybody. If people start doing concerts again and there's, a country festival at Gillette Stadium, and all of a sudden they allow capacity, and every single one of those people then gets 10 people sick, and there's 7 million infected. So that's what we're trying to avoid here, and that's why we'll continue to try to be as careful as possible.
And hell, there's a new parking lot across the street now too, isn't there? They paved the AutoZone parking lot. Is that who do you know who owns it? Is that you guys or no?
Don't know.
No,
I think
it's
that we would
smart.
I would love to. It'll definitely help. There are a ton of amenities that are coming that will really catapult us into the next level as far as venues that we're super excited about. They will be done for 2021 if that's the way that it looks like it's shaping up. And worst case, as far as I'm concerned, hopefully knock on wood here, but is that if the ultimate thing didn't happen, by the time we reopen, you are going to be walking into a place that you've never experienced before. And that this community in particular, this state, this region will be so proud of, but also people will flock here because of the experience that people will be able to enjoy. Even the elevation of the lawn, I don't know if you've noticed, but we went up another 15 feet. So it's a real, it's a pitch when you're coming down, and the whole top of the lawn will have concessions built in. Everything that you can get in the concourse, you can now get on top of the lawn. So there isn't that bottleneck. There isn't the need for people to go down. There will be checkpoints and railings, concrete everywhere, and bathrooms, which everybody's really excited about. So we're very excited, and in the interim, we're focusing on the restaurant and doing some really cool experimental stuff there, and having the roof deck that is like no place you've ever seen. Doing some smaller events and parties and rooftop yoga and all of these sorts of things, which are just it's a smaller type of entertainment. And God knows, I had no intention of getting back into the restaurant business, but here we are, and it's if this is what we need to do, we get to do it. I don't even say need to do it. We get to do it. It's still fun, and it's cool, and it's something different. And it's going to be something that will hopefully be the first step in a multiple step process to bring Old Town onto the music map, because we have a 200-person nightclub that's ready to open on the second floor, and we're going to build a 1,000 to 2,000 person rock club right next door, and have it be a mecca for people to be able to come and see some live music all year round.
And that's personally, that's the most attractive thing to me. I mean, when I heard you guys talking about Kanù in that block, first of all, props to you and the group, the people behind it, because of the fact that Old Town is such an underserved community that it would be really cool to have something of substantial effort put into. And when you look at a picture of the Kanù, just so anybody's listening, it's Kanu on Facebook. You see the pictures of the rooftop. It's insane that you would think that that's Old Town. Like you would think that's Boston.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Portland in the old port, or any of those places like that. So it's really cool to see that. But for me personally, the 1,000 person venue next door is the venue that there's a lot more bands that I like that are in that 1,000 to 2,000 capacity people than there are the 10,000 capacity people. So like if I were to go to listen through my Spotify, playlist, a lot of those people are the people that used to be booked at Ushuaia. You know what I mean? That used to be booked at those kind of venues that it's like your small acts that are not quite the stadium tours yet. And it's you guys had Under Oath at the Waterfront as part of the festival, but I've seen them 8 or 9 times. 7 or 8 of those times have been in places that are like the station in Portland.
Yeah,
like those kind of places where it's like you can't put Under Oath headlining at the Waterfront Concerts would not work.
right.
It'd have to be in a place that's 1,000 people, 1,500 people, because of the fact that they don't have as big a following as Metallica or Ozzy or in like those places. So I understand that's what I'm looking forward to. And it may not be all heavier shows, but some independent. I mean, Chris Webby, those kind of places. People from Connecticut who, again, I saw him in Portland, but not at an arena. I saw him at a club. It's those different places.
Oh man, I mean you're exactly right as far as that kind of artist. I mean, we had Webby with the Hot Show down in Westbrook, and he pulls, and that's the kind of cool thing, to your point, that we're excited about bringing to Old Town. We're actively involved in it. Alex has a point of pride with the community being from here, and with the Old Town Kanù connection and all those sorts of things. And we're actively trying to make it something that we're not just passively involved in for the sake of the club being successful, but we want to encourage other people to open businesses there and to open an Irish pub or whatever it might be. And I'm sitting on the economic development board for them now to try to find some ways to bring in those kinds of people, because it really is for us, a way to have it so that we have a 200 person nightclub, a 1,200 person nightclub, a 4,000, 5,000 person place down in Westbrook, and then the big amp. And you're able, as you know, to cultivate those relationships from their beginnings. And Hailstorm are some of our favorite people. We've been dealing with them since the club days, and they love to play with us because we make sure that they're taken care of. They know us, they trust us. And those are cool feelings when they come back and they know you and they say, "Hey, Chris, how's it going?" And like, that's a great feeling that these bands remember what you bring to the table. And that's what we're hoping to do with, the next generation of groups, is bring them from the bottom, if you will, all the way up. I personally want to see an Animal Suit Drive-By reunion, but that seems to be but
It's I had a hard drive. Speaking of that, I had a hard drive that I had a smaller MacBook Pro hard drive, like the actual disk in the computer, and so a lot of my stuff I stored in an external hard drive. And when I got this new MacBook, it has a terabyte, so I was able to move some stuff over, but I still kept stuff on the old hard drive. And I got a new USB-C hard drive, and it was working great. And then it started like not working the greatest. It was like loading way fast and all this other stuff. So I was like really scared, because literally I was explaining to my brother, I was like, the funniest thing was it wasn't about hardly anything else on the hard drive. It was like I still have the unreleased at the very end of the Killing Moon. I had their unreleased track that they put out like on whatever it was, and I downloaded it probably illegally off of YouTube or something like that. And I kept it, and I love it. It's one of my favorite songs that they ever put out. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose that. That's what I was worried about. I wasn't worried about like honeymoon photos, or it was like these old Killing Moon songs.
That's funny, because I actually have a hard drive that got destroyed, and that was one of the biggest things that was on it. Like, I had probably 9,000 pictures of my kids growing up, and I was kind of like, but my Killing. So I had to call Jeremy and Chris and be like, I'm going to need more copies of it, because that's what's important.
It's funny. It's funny how you say that too. I was like, speaking of Ushuaia, I think I have a DVD that I think I set up recorded with my camcorder at Ushuaia of one of their final shows that they put on as the Killing Moon. And I think it's one of those things that I've thrown away movies and DVDs and all that stuff over the years, home done videos. And that's one of the ones that I've kept, because it was just like, they just had so much fun. It was not like, it was just watching them play. It was just like your friends playing. I mean, it was because they're all the same age as me, but like,
in the world, they really are. And it's funny that we started this conversation talking about Kabang, and to have them have played in 2009 and know that was really the last time they ever played together. I begged and borrowed and was pretty much offering them whatever to come and hang out and play, because that's the stuff that was so important in the music scene here. And that's where, at its core, I think why Bangor's been so successful in particular. In Maine, the Maine music scene's outstanding, all around, right? Like, they've done a great job in Portland, and I think that they don't need us as far as that goes, because they've been doing it so well for so long. But there's a real point of pride with Maine musicians in particular. But there's also such a willingness for Maine bands to just wrap their arms around a band that they truly believe in. And, there's a reason when Kenny Chesney comes, he does his only costume change on his entire tour, because our fans heckled him into doing it, because they're a special breed. They want to, it was supposed to be the No Shoes, No Nation, Nation tour, or whatever, it's No Shoes Nation tour. And he came out in cowboy boots, and these two women in the front row were giving him crap, saying, I thought this was supposed to be, a beach tour. So he ran off stage and put on his flip-flops, his shorts, and his Red Sox hat. And the next day he was on Good Morning America, and he talked about the fact that Bangor was his favorite place he's played on his tour. And that's why he comes back every year. And that for us was one of those that set the tone for us, especially with the country community, that Bangor is a place you want to play. And it's because our fans are so spectacular.
And it's been like that for years. It's transitioned to the Waterfront Concerts. But when I was in high school, how many different places were there to play local shows? There was 10 or 15 places in the greater Bangor area that you could see these local Maine acts that played from Bucksport to Bangor to Orono. And there isn't that anymore. And so there isn't that many anymore. So the one cool thing I would think is that maybe it's you're gonna have that act that come in. You're gonna have obviously you're gonna have more nationwide acts come to fill a 1,000 person capacity, 2,000 person capacity venue, but the local person is you're likely gonna be able to throw a local act on to open for that person. And that's kind of a cool way because that's like it was one of the coolest things to ever experience to see friends of yours be up on stage. And like you mentioned, you went all the way to the Carolinas to see your friend perform with someone. But back when I was in high school, it was like, oh my gosh, can you believe that this person opened up for this person?
Yeah.
And to me, it was the stupidest person. They're not even a band anymore. But like to me, it was huge.
Yeah.
And so seeing that local thing, that local flavor, and to see people like Kenny Chesney say that their favorite places to come is Bangor. To
It's
me,
the point.
people
It's
don't even know where Bangor is.
no.
And to me, it's really cool because again, Under Oath is one of my favorite bands of all time. And when I was able to see Under Oath on their tour flyer, and next to it a little dash that says Bangor, Maine, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" The
Yeah.
childhood Justin was just like, "Oh my god!" And then it went on further to other big acts, Ozzy and Kiss, all these other people that have their name and say Bangor, Maine on it. My dad moved me up here when I was 10 years old. I didn't know where Bangor was, and to see all that what you guys have been able to do, and then the community has been able to embrace, and then the economy, adding hotels, the casino, all that stuff is pretty cool too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have been you know me. I look like I'm tired, right? And I look like I'm beat up, but I would trade it in every year to be able to keep doing what we're doing. I mean, 15-year-old me, the fact that I'm able to meet childhood heroes, or at least drool next to them as they're standing there. For my perfect one was when Greg Allman came. We had him on the pier, and you know I saw the Allman Brothers 30 times. Like that was just the band that my buddies and I went and saw every year, and sometimes sober, not more than twice probably, but we went and saw them every year. It was a pilgrimage for us, and to have had to meet Greg and to talk to him, and he had just lost his mother at the time, and to be able to give him my condolences and have him be appreciative of that was an amazing experience. And I joked at one point because we had Government Mule and Tedeschi trucks and all these sorts of things, and I was putting together my Allman Brothers set because we couldn't get them all at once, but I could piecemeal it together and get them through. So there's something to be said with having helping kids and helping that generation, even my age, um, to be able to see bands like Van Halen, with Eddie passing, like to have brought them to Bangor, like, give me a break. Like, how great is that? And that's the thing that really for me keeps it going because, you know, I don't watch concerts very much anymore. So it's not a selfish reason that we started doing this. We wanted to do something, again, you talked to Josh Gass and the original days, and it was, we wanted to do something so that we could have something to do. And the reason why Waterfront Concerts is here is because Alex wanted to have something in his backyard. He wanted to get out of bed and be home and do tours and be able to do concerts and to be able to have this be something that has transformed a place that people were flocking away from and have them come back. It's amazing. And even when we built the Cross Center, when that was getting built and the arena was going on, the one thing that I said, I had two babies who are now not babies anymore at the time. And the way that I have lived with and have surrounded myself with people who have the same mentality is, if you're living here and you're not making it a place where your kids can stay and work and live, then you're doing a disservice, because I want my kids to be able to travel and go to Boston or California or wherever in the world they want to go. But I don't want them to have to live here. I want them to be able to stay if they want to. And that's what we try to do every single day going forward, is make this a place where people are proud to be, excited to be, and have opportunities to do things. My brother and my nephew are both now up here. I was up here alone for 20 years. And my brother moved up here and now works in a hotel up here. And my nephew's going to Husson. And my brother's 40. And he said to me, what took me so long? And that's pretty amazing, considering it used to be, when are you moving back? So it's outstanding.
It is something to say about you guys, you Alex, and all the crew from Waterfront Concerts that you did it in Bangor, and it is because of Alex being from here and all that stuff. And but it would have been way easier to do it in Portland. Like
100%.
100% easier just to do it somewhere closer, bigger population, closer to Boston, easier traveling, airport right there that's bigger. Um, but it's something to say about Bangor. It's the same thing I'll always say about Abe and Heather at Orono Brewing Company. They could have easily taken OBC when we expanded it, moved it to Bangor.
Yep.
But they did it in Orono because that's their backyard. That's where they wanted to support the economy and the people of Orono. And we built this facility in Orono that's going to be here forever. We're not going anywhere. We're going to supply the rest of the state. I mean, hopefully there's going to be a couple of draft lines at Kanù with the Orono Brewing Company on it.
I would think
But
that's
I think Cal already talked to Dina anyway, so I think we're working on it anyway.
Yeah,
But the idea that it's right here in your backyard, and now there's all these different things. Like my wife and I mentioned we're not going anywhere. Like someone would have to offer me a vastly superior amount of money that changes the lifestyle of how I live my life to live in a different place. Like it'd have to be this groundbreaking innovative thing or a lot of money to not live in this area. I mean, I live in Orrington and it's not that far from Bangor and not far from work in Orono. And I just love it. I could easily raise a family here. I could easily, I'm gonna make money. I'm gonna have great friends and people around me. When I moved back in 2016, I didn't want to move back. I mean,
Sure.
I was living outside of Boston. Like I had everything at my fingertips. I was a sports fan, so I could go see the Red Sox game. I could see the Bruins. I could see the Celtics. I could go to concerts. There's beer. There's New York City's not that far away. I could travel. It's easy. But when I got back to Bangor, within weeks of being back here, I was just like, oh. I went and saw Blink 182 when they came here in 2016. My buddy Brian Keyser, his wife was pregnant, and she's just like, I don't think I can stand on my feet the whole time. So she gave me her ticket. And Brian and I went to the concert together. And I have a picture that I use all the time for when him and I are on the podcast together. That was one of the best experiences that I ever could have had coming back to Bangor.
Yeah.
That show back in 2016 was unbelievable. They put on, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is Bangor. Like, I don't remember this. I mean, again, the last time I saw a live show in the Bangor area was at Ushuaia.
Right.
That's something. I mean, like that's a long time ago.
Well,
So it's just unbelievable.
And that's the thing with, not an absence makes the heart grow fonder thing, but I think that, people, the overwhelming response I get from people is how much they miss the concerts and live music. And I think whether that's at our venue or the venues in Portland or, Boston or wherever it might be, people just, music is a different beast. And, to have that sort of hole, if you're a person who is a freak for live music and loves it so much, it really is something that's hard to find an alternative solution for. And it invokes even with Blink 182, right? Like how ridiculous is it that we're still like, yeah, Blink 182. Same with Fall Out Boy when they came. My daughter met Pete Wentz and she was, 10 and she already knew who he was and was like, this is the greatest, and to invoke those memories for people that want to go see a show. Like for me, the first show I ever got paid to work was Motley Crue. So for me, as someone who grew up with that, my brother every day, like you couldn't have done the last show I had paid to go to was Motley Crue. So it was this whole full circle thing. And I had bought tickets for Fish in 13 and then I had to sell them because I worked here, and to have these bands that just, again, I'm spoiled because it doesn't register a lot of the time. But man, do I miss working in live music right now. I miss it every day. And it's such a huge part of who I am. And as I've missed it, parts of me have grown because I'm not running around. I'm not doing this for the spreadsheets. I can tell you that 100%. I usually like taking 4 months off where my work lags a little while we do concerts, and that has not been the case this year. Now it's just lagging because I'm terrible at it. But
I'll tell you right now that you say you miss it. I guarantee you'll realize when it comes back how much you actually miss it more than you do right now. Because even me, I mean, I missed being around the customers and talking to customers and the regulars that would come in and having Abe come in and change the music to reggae and changing kegs and all that stuff. I was like in April and May, I was like, oh, I missed that. Yeah. But it wasn't until I actually got back to doing it to realize how much I actually missed it and how much more. I mean, you must miss it crazily, but like when May comes around, June comes around, you're actually in the thick of things and and running from place to place because something's not going right. You get frustrated because it's not going right, but in the same sense, you'll go, "Oh, this is so good to be back."
So happy. Yeah, for sure.
And even for you, with the amount of people that you deal with, like the thousands of crowds and the people in the concerts, and it's also going to give you a sense of normalcy as well back again. Like I feel like when that happens again, it's like, okay, someone's playing live music on a stage in downtown Bangor with thousands of people watching it. The world is back to somewhat normal now. Like now
Yeah.
we know, and that's the kind of a cool thing too, because you'll be back to your job, or you're at your job, but like back to what you want to do
Right.
to
Two
then
different
have it.
Two completely different things for sure. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Bangor will know collectively that we're almost there or we're okay when we start doing shows because again, we're not going to do it haphazardly. We're not going to do it unless we're sure we can, guarantee, not guarantee, but that we can try our best or do our best to keep our fans safe. And that's been our idea since the beginning. I mean, the lines that we complain about are there because we're trying to keep you safe. In my ideal world, you don't have to walk through a metal detector, but this is not the world that we had been used to. And as it continues to change and become safer or less safe, we're going to adapt and make it so that everybody's experience is as good as possible. And again, it's where we've been conscious to. We at first were conscious to make sure that the artist experience was as good as possible, so that they would come back. We put all our efforts into making our amenities backstage unbelievable. Now it's time for the fan to reap the benefits of what they've been able to help us provide.
And I can't wait. I mean, I can't wait because I feel like I'm gonna be at the first concert of the season just because I want to. Like, I don't care who it is. It could be someone I absolutely hate. I'm gonna be like, I want to be there.
Yeah,
I want to get a beer and some hot dog and sit there and watch whatever live music is going on in Bangor.
for
But
sure.
can you buy tickets right now for those concerts? Or are you waiting?
No, so I guess ideally you could, but why would you? Every ticket that was purchased already, if people decided to hold on to them, they are honored. If they decided to trade them in, or just to have people buy them again, to have to whatever happens, either honor them or not. I'd rather come back in February and say tickets are now on sale for the 2021 season. I'd be totally fine with it.
Cool. But I mean, do you guys have a list of concerts that are coming up on your website? Or are you still working on that?
So we won't start announcing the next year's schedule until we are ready to fire.
Okay.
The ones that have been postponed, obviously, people can get access to because they were given new dates and all that kind of stuff. But as far as announcing anything new, it's coming. God willing, it's coming here in another 3 months. This is usually the time when we start to fire. When we really start to put things together, and we're treating it as such. We're selling our season ticket packages, and we're selling our sponsorships, and we're selling everything because our plan right now is to go forward until we're told we can't. And we'll do the best that we can. And like I said, we'll focus on the immediate, which is Kanù and being successful there. And then as we need to, we'll change the way we do things. And the cool thing this year, at least, is we have a good lead time that we can start to be creative internally, so that if it doesn't look like it's going to go to full or whatever it might be, we can start to then come up with concepts to keep people engaged.
So I'm going to ask you the annoying question that people asked us at Warner Brewing Company before we open. When are you going to open at Kanù?
Yeah. So soon we're doing a preview coming up here the end of the week for the people who built it and some of the distributors and whatnot. And it's about there. We're hiring. We're going to start training the staff. I have my final round of interviews, I think, is in the next week or so, and then we'll start training staff and getting them hired and getting them ready to go. And we're right there. I mean, the building is spectacular, and I'm so excited for people to see it. You will not find anything like this. Honestly, like you said, north of Boston, at least, it is something special. And really, it's the only reason I'm still like, okay, restaurant, we'll go back into it again, because otherwise I really had it's not something that was in my peripherals for sure.
That's awesome. I can't wait. I'm gonna have to message you and see if I can come by and see a sneak peek of if you're there.
You can probably work.
Yeah. But I really appreciate you coming on and talking music. I mean, I miss it. I can't wait to see you at a concert running around like a chicken with its head cut off.
I'll be smiling next time, I bet. I'll be at least on the inside for sure. Maybe not on the outside. I got to work on that. It's something I've just lost over the past couple of years because it is, we were doing there for a couple of years. We were doing 50, 55, 60 concerts in a summer. And as much as I love it, that's a lot. So,
I mean, I've been there. So when you see you running from place to place, I'm just like, hey, because it's probably the only time I'm going to see you. So,
yeah,
hey, I want to make sure you say hi to you. But I know what you were doing. You were putting out a fire or
yeah,
trying to fix something. And I remember that from, I said I worked at Soulfest and I was the person who ran the heavier stage. And so I was making sure artists got the catering and all that stuff. And someone would come over and say hi to me and they get all pissed at me because I didn't actually like sit down and have a conversation with them. I'm like,
right,
but I'm working. You're
right.
here
You
as
need
a
a
person.
Mara.
I'm working. Like, this is what we gotta get put this concert on. So
That's
I
funny.
understand it.
That's funny that you say that because obviously I was at Patty's for a long time and I had gone in and I got carded and it was hilarious because I was like, I got carded. I'm already cool anyway, but so I went into the kitchen as one does who's a jerk and sat at the bar anyway. And they were like, oh no, that's Rudolph. And they were like, oh, okay. And one of the customers or one of the guests that came up to the bar, patrons, if you will, said, oh, why don't you come out anymore? You don't come out anymore. I said, I was never out. Like I was working. I was being paid to be here with you. Like I'm not like going out to the bars is something that I'm just not good at. So I just don't. I like being on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the atmosphere of being in that environment, just like you. I love it, but I don't want to be. Every time a dish breaks, if I'm sitting at a booth trying to enjoy dinner, I want to go. I want to grab the broom.
Well, how many have you ever? I mean, you've obviously done this. Bust a table on the way to the bar. Like you grab the glasses and bring them to the bar with you. Oh, that person didn't pick up their glass. Where it's like someone looks at you like you don't work here, or even at Orono Brewing Company when I'm not working, I'm like, oh, look at this, and they're like, Justin, we can do that, and I'm like, no, it's just habit. It's like
every time. I've been gone from Patty's for 9 years, and every time I end up bussing a table, and they're just they don't even know me anymore. There's like the bartender knows me, and he's like, "Oh,
who's the creepy old dude?"
Yeah. Why is that guy grabbing things? But I'm me. I worked here one time.
A long time ago.
I can't get that out of my system. And I still. The funny thing is, I still talk to people like I'm 15 years old, and I think I am the youngest, coolest person, and I'm so far removed now that when my children who are 15 years old now look at me with that disdain, I'm like, oh no. But maybe they're not cool because I'm super cool, So,
well, yeah, your kids will tell you you're not cool, and you are old. One of them did just get their permit, right?
Yep.
There you go. You're old now.
2 of them have their permit, and the other one she's a 45-year-old 7th grader, so she's something else. But
I really appreciate you coming on, man.
It was fun. Again, I think that people will be really excited about things we have going, and all anybody can do right now is support anybody that they can. Find that business that you love and wrap your arms around it. And even if it's just one place over and over again, just take care of everybody because that's what we do up here. And with all of the nonsense going on, as far as everybody just seeming to be at everybody's throat, just focus on the things that they make you happy and that you love, and just keep going.
And one thing I will say quickly, and it's not a shame on anybody, but if you go check out Kanù when they open, or you come to Orono Brewing Company or Patty's or whatever, and you're a regular and you've been there a lot, and you're just slowly stay for a little bit and then let someone else, if there's a wait, let someone else get in there and have a table. That's one of the things that I've not financially, because Orono Brewing Company is doing fine. There's no issues there, but like the idea behind not everybody can experience the same experience you're having if you sit there for 3 hours and drink 2 beers, because there usually is a wait list on Friday and Saturday nights at a lot of these places, and I'm sure you're going to experience this at Kanù at the very, very beginning. Go in there, have some food, drink some beers, stay for a little bit, but also be aware there's a line of people waiting to get in, that you let someone else have that experience as well.
Yeah, so. It's the Christmas tree lighting outside of the window in West Market Square where we get the campers. So, you're right. It is a time when we are limited in what we can do, and we're trying to give everybody the best experience, but let's give everybody some experiences. Everybody needs them right now.
But so waterfrontconcerts.com is any information you can find out about that. Do you have a Kanù website right now, or is it just Facebook?
It's coming. It is on Facebook, and then Kanù.com will be the website as soon as we get it launched. But like I said, it's all coming real soon, and I appreciate the time today, Justin.
I really appreciate it, Chris. We'll be posting this as we record on a Monday, but it's coming out on a Wednesday, so everybody. Follow Waterfront Concerts on Instagram, Facebook, all that different stuff, and Kanù. Chris, I really appreciate it. We'll talk again sometime. Maybe we'll talk again when there's actually concerts going on, or just before this concert's going on,
I
so we
don't
can actually
care.
promote something.
We're gonna go and find some of the members of Animal Suit, and we're gonna make them play for us while we're drinking beer, one way or the other. I don't care if it's in a basement and they're chained up. It's happening. Coming for
That's
you.
amazing. So I really appreciate you coming on, man. Have a good day.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.